I know there's a lot of us who really miss John Lennon, just like I know there's a lot of reasons to miss John. We miss the man, we miss the music, we miss how he made us feel. He would inspire us, he challenged us, he got us outside of our comfort zones. He would make us laugh and cry, he would make us sad, he would make us angry. We would feel all of those things. And then after all of that, he would make us fall in love with him over and over and over again. Because there was just something about John that whenever he would talk to us, whenever he would sing to us, we believed him. We felt like he was telling us the truth, like he was keeping it real. Because no matter what John was thinking or whatever it was that he was feeling or whatever it was that he was going through, he was going to tell us all about it.
I'm either making music, watching TV, or listening to the radio. And occasionally I get into a little spot of trouble.
He wanted to take us on his journey with him, and we would gladly follow. We wanted to go wherever it was that John went because there was just something about John that was so very interesting. We were under his spell. He was kind of powerful and magical that way because there was something that was always happening with John, and you never knew what was going to happen next, but you knew it was going to be good. So we would always gladly follow John pretty much wherever he went. It's just unfortunate that, that we couldn't follow him past 1980, but we do sort of have an idea about maybe where things were going to go. Because in one of John's last interviews that he gave in 1980, he was talking about the Double Fantasy album. He was saying that with this music, he was trying to connect with folks just like him.
But when I was singing and writing this and working with it, I was visualizing all the people of my age group.
Folks who were around 40 years old, maybe been in a relationship a long time, maybe married with kids. He wanted to connect with them. He was speaking to those folks. And it was great if younger folks connected with the music. That was great. But he was mainly speaking to these guys. Now, that's kind of telling me that, that his message was maybe going to be a lot more mature. Because after all, he'd already been through all that stuff and he was more grown up now. And he was speaking to this more grown-up audience. He wasn't going to be uncool or anything. Of course, he was going to tour and make more records and albums, and music and all that other stuff. Maybe he was also going to work with a lot of different people. He was always going to do different things, unexpected things. That was John. And another thing that John was going to do was going to continue to go on TV. Give interviews because that's John. He's a communicator.
I had fun doing those talk shows on Mike Douglas and things like that.
So, and I think that John, with that new voice, with that more mature, thoughtful, meaningful voice, he was going to change the world into the 80s and beyond, just like he had changed, like the 60s and the 70s. I mean, why not? Okay, because John was going to continue to be in front of the mic. He was going to continue to be in front of the camera, be on TV.
I think there's certainly room for an odd Lennon or two here.
Everywhere. You were never going to shut up John Lennon. He was always going to talk. He was always going to tell us all about it. And we would always want to hear it. Everybody would want John on as their guest. And most likely, John would wind up, having his own show.
And I'm Dr. Winston O'Boogie, otherwise known as John Lennon.
Okay, at least that's my opinion. I think a lot of people think that, okay? John would make a great guest or like a great co-host, but in my world I would make him be like, he would be like a Johnny Carson. It would be his show. He would be the talent, he would be the draw. Everybody would want to tune in because of John Lennon. Okay, but he could come and go as he pleased, and I would always be there all the time just to kind of fill in and just to kind of trigger him, to kind of get him going. It's like, John, talk about this coaster here. What are you talking? And then John would go off for like 3 hours talking about the world, talking about music, talking about his past, talking about his friends, talking about everything here and enlightening us all, giving us all his take on the world, kind of filtering everything, through the John Lennon filter and coming up with something that makes sense to everybody.
Tomorrow will be just the same as today, only different.
Because that's John. He's this great communicator. He made sense to a lot of people. And why wouldn't he continue to do so? And the bonus would be that he would be on shows like this and he could have guests on. And I would have him go ahead and have Paul McCartney on. So in the year 2000, here's, John on my show, and John would be over here Paul McCartney would be here, and they'd just be, you know, solving the world's problems, going back and forth, and I'd just be going, and the show would just last all day long. I mean, why not? Okay, it would be that great, you know, flower pot conversation, and you wouldn't have to have the hidden microphone. It would all be legit here, and you'd have John and Paul just solving everything because you've got a more mature John Lennon, a more mature Paul McCartney, and they would just go back and forth. Again, fantasy world here, folks, but you get the drift, okay? And I'm just having a lot of fun because why the heck not? John was all about joking around.
My auntie used to like ballet, but she didn't like the men's crotch. She says, it's all right except for those terrible crotches.
And having fun and going here and going there and exploring, you know, the impossible and trying to make the impossible possible and trying to make it happen and change the world. I mean, and like, why not? Why couldn't he change the world? Why couldn't he make it be a better place? Why? And I think that's exactly like what would have happened. Now, I know I'm being a little all over the place and maybe being a little bit weird, but this is where my guest John Lennon has taken me. You know, it's very John. And it makes me think of this, one of his quotes where he's talking about his song, I Am the Walrus.
I Am the Walrus. It's also one of my favorite tracks because I did it, of course, but also because it's one of those that has enough little biddies going to keep you interested, even 100 years later.
I got to tell you, I feel like that's the perfect description of John. It is a little bit weird, but there's all kinds of interesting stuff there to keep all of our attention and keep us all interested for 100 years and beyond. You know, John is forever. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really and truly appreciate it. And until next time, peace and love one another. Take care. Thanks, John.
Beatles is Beatles are Beatle. In the end, it's like, oh, sod off with the Beatles, you know.